Hello, grade 3. Our science lesson for this week is about simple and compound machines. And throughout this lesson, I'm going to explain the scientific meaning of work. I'm going to define and explain the term simple machine, and we're going to identify simple machines that are used at school, home, and work. And finally, I am going to define and explain the term compound machine, and we are going to recognize simple and compound machines found in our environments. Let's start our lesson by learning what are simple machines. But first, I want you to think of the work you do each day. You do schoolwork. You may do other jobs at home too. By bedtime, you may feel like you have put in a full day's work. Scientists define work in a specific way. By definition, work is the use of a force, a push or a pull, to move an object in the same direction as the force. Simple machines help you do work. What is a simple machine? A simple machine is something that makes work easier. A simple machine has few or no moving parts. To use it, you apply only one force. In this picture, we can see that the shovel handle is a simple machine. It helps the boy lift sand more easily than he could on his own. In the second picture, we can see that this girl is using a wagon to do the work of moving things. The handle of the wagon is a simple machine called a wheel and axle. It helps her steer and turn the wagon. Now, we are going to identify simple machines that are used at school, home, and work, for example. And we are going to start with levers. Levers are simple machines. They are often used to lift things. By definition, a lever is a bar that pivots or turns on a fixed point. A fixed point is a point that does not move. The fixed point on a lever is called fulcrum. The load, it means what you are moving, is on one end of the lever. So as you move the other end of the lever moves the load. Let's look at the first picture on the left. A fork is one kind of lever. The boy's thumb is the fulcrum. As he lowers his hand, the fork lifts the food, it means the load, to his mouth. In the second picture, we can see that on a seesaw, you may be a load or a force. When you are coming down, your weight is the applied force. It presses down on one end of the lever, and the load on the other side goes up. Then you trade. You are the load being lifted, and your partner's weight is the force. Now, second simple machine that we are going to learn about is called a wheel and axle. Some simple machines use circular motion to make work easier. By definition, a wheel and axle is made up of a wheel and an axle that are connected so that they turn together. A wheel and axle uses a circular motion to increase force. So, if you turn the wheel, the axle turns with greater force. Now, in this picture, we can see that turning the handlebar is like turning the purple wheel. The connected axle turns to steer the front bicycle wheel. Let's look at the picture of the bicycle. The handlebars are connected to a shaft. Together, these act as a wheel and axle. So, when you turn the handlebars, the shaft or axle turns with it. Since the axle is connected to the front wheel, the wheel also turns. So in this way, you can steer without having to turn the wheel from side to side with your hands. Third simple machine that we are going to learn about is the pulley. You can use a simple machine like a pulley to lift a load straight up into the air. By definition, a pulley is a wheel with a rope, cord, or chain around it. One end of the rope hangs on each side of the pulley. You can pull from the side like the girls in the tree house in the picture on the left. Now, let's look at the picture on the right. The pulley is attached to the tree house. One end of the rope is in the tree house. The other end is attached to the basket. So by pulling on the free end of the rope, the girls in the tree house raise the basket to their level. Now, let's discover together what are some other simple machines. Simple machines are parts of tools we use every day. A plane is a flat object such as a board. An inclined plane is a plane that is slanted so that one end is higher than the other, as we can see in the picture. This makes it easier to lift a load because instead of lifting the load straight up all at once, you push or pull it up the inclined plane little by little. So this helps in spreading the work over a distance. Now let's look at the second picture. It shows an inclined plane. It takes longer to roll a wheelchair up a ramp than to lift it. But lifting a wheelchair takes more effort. Raising the wheelchair with the ramp takes less effort because you apply a small force over a greater distance. You do the same amount of work, but the work is easier. Now, a wedge is two inclined planes placed back to back. One edge is sharp and pointed, and the other is wide and flat. If we look at the picture, we can see a wedge. One edge is sharp and pointed, and the other one is wide and flat. So, if you apply force to the flat edge, the pointed edge can split one thing into two things. For example, a knife is a wedge. The sharp edge of the knife opens a tiny crack. The inclined planes on either side push outward, widening the crack and separating the pieces as the wedge moves downward. The sharper the knife, the less effort is needed to get the work done. So, when you use a knife to cut, the blade splits the foot into two pieces. A screwdriver is a wheel and axle. It uses circular motion to make work easier. The tip of the screwdriver fits into the slot at the top of a screw. What is a screw? A screw is an inclined plane wrapped around a shaft or a cylinder. So, when you turn the screwdriver's handle, its shaft works like an axle to turn the screw. A screwdriver doesn't just turn the screw. Like other wheel and axles, the screwdriver takes your effort and increases that effort as it turns the screw. Let's look at this picture. As the screwdriver turns the screw, the inclined plane on the screw pulls it into the wood. The threads also make it hard to pull the screw out of the wood. The thread around the screw is an inclined plane. This inclined plane is not straight like a ramp. It spirals around the screw. So, unlike a nail, which goes straight into the wood, a screw moves around and around as it goes in. As a result, it takes longer to insert a screw into the wood than it does a nail. But you use less force to get the screw into the wood. The closer together the threads are, the easier it is to turn the screw. In this picture, this man is using a nice auger. As he turns the handle, the auger pulls the ice beneath it up to the surface. The ice is the load. As it moves up, a hole is made in the ice. Now, we are going to learn how can simple machines work together. Sometimes, two simple machines work together to get a job done. A compound machine, by definition, is a machine made up of two or more simple machines. Garden clippers, for example, are a compound machine. Bicycles are also compound machines. Now let's take a look at this picture. We can see that we have garden clippers. The blades of these garden clippers are wedges, and the handles are levers. So, garden clippers are compound machines because they are made up of two or more simple machines. Finally, this table shows all the simple machines that we studied throughout this lesson. So first we have a lever. It uses force at one end to move a load at the other end. An inclined plane. It lets you lift a load using a smaller force over a greater distance. A screw. It uses an inclined plane wrapped around a bus to move things up. A wedge. It lets you move two things apart or split one thing into two. Wheel and axle. Uses circular motion to increase force. And finally, a pulley uses a wheel and rope to change the size or direction of a force. That's it for this week, grade 3. Thank you for watching.